Hi, you're in the kitchen with Vita and the Family Eats, and I have my friend Matt here. He's going to be working with us today, and he's going to learn how to can peaches. And I wanted to make sure that everybody had a list of everything that they're going to need ahead of time. So I'm going to go through a quick list first, and then I'll start with some of the steps. So you're going to need a can or kettle with the rack in it, and if my cameraman can show you that on the stove, that's it on the stove heating right now. There's a rack inside that I'll show you a little later that holds all the bottles in place. And so you want to get that on to start warming up. And I'll show you water levels when we get to that. Okay, so next you're going to need, of course, glass canning jars with lids that you see behind me here. You can pick the size that you want your end result to be for your canned peaches. You're going to need a pile of dish towels, and you're going to need some cooling racks, a tablespoon, some pot holders, obviously, a non-metallic wooden, I use a chopstick. You can use a skewer that's wood, anything that's not metallic. This is to get inside your jars and to move them around, get the air bubbles out, and make more room. You just don't want it to be metallic. Also, you're going to need some fruit fresh. You're going to need white sugar, and of course your peaches or your pears. So once you have all of your supplies together, and you know you've got a full day to dedicate to this, you'll have a couple paring knives for peeling. You're going to need a chopping block or a plastic board of some sort, and a large measuring cup, because you're going to fill your jars right here in place, and then clean them off and transfer them to your kettle. But I'll show you all those steps as we go. So our first step today is going to be grabbing all of your peaches and putting them into a good hot bath and letting them soak for a little bit. I'd say 5 to 10 minutes. As long as your water is boiling, you can probably hear the tea kettle on the stove as well. I've disinfected the sink and wiped it all out as well. And you're going to fill that with the hot boiling water. Add your peaches so the skins start to loosen for you. And once you take them out of the water and they're easy enough to handle, the air is going to start to cool them, so the peeling is not going to be that difficult. And you want a nice small paring knife, good and sharp, to get those peeled with. That's going to be your time-consuming portion for the most part, is peeling and pitting and getting them ready to go into the jars. You're going to need to make sure that your jars are sterilized. I suggest putting them in the dishwasher with nothing else. Just run a load with no soap. The water is at such a high temperature, you're good to go. A lot of soaps will linger on items. I'd rather you didn't do that. I would just use an empty soap container in the dishwasher. And your lids, I would suggest either put them in a mesh bag in the dishwasher on the top rack, or just put them in a nice large bowl like I do with scalding water, and then just dry them, your lids and your rings. And even if your containers are brand new and you take them right out of the plastic and they've been sealed, it doesn't matter. You got to sterilize them. Don't take any chances with your family or as a gift, whatever. Everything has to be sanitized and sterilized. Your sinks that you're going to be soaking in, any of the bowls that you use, your canner, everything. Because canning, you don't want to take any chances with any other impurities getting in there and ruining all of this stock of fruit that you've invested in, and all this time and energy that you've invested in. Okay, so when we get back, I will have the bath started for the peaches, and I'll show you how we start to do some of our peeling, and we'll load a couple jars for you and show you how that goes. Be back in a little bit. Okay, everybody, so this is my peel side and my pit side. I throw them in disposable bags. And this is my boiling water. I boiled all the water and put 2 tea kettles worth on here. And I've had the peaches soaking for a few minutes now. And I'm going to grab one to show you how we peel. And then I'm going to, once I have it all peeled, I should have enough to show you where the cameraman will go to the island and you can watch Matt load the first jar. Okay? So I usually just look at this, peels right off. The heat just makes it that easy. You don't lose any flesh. This is just peeling. You see what I'm getting off of here? You're keeping all the flesh right there. You don't want to waste. Not as expensive as the produce is. So you want to work while the peach is still warm. And if you feel like your water's getting cool, I keep a tea kettle on the entire time, and I'm constantly refilling it, because between Matt and myself, we each have a couple dozen to do. So we're going to be here a while, but we're not going to put you through all of that. We're going to show you the steps, and then we're going to get busy and finish our canning. But I wanted you to see, this is skinning a peach. Not big skins and you're removing so much flesh that it's wasted. This is a whole peach with no skin. And then you're just going to go down, follow all the way around the peach. I do it in fourths because I don't like to do halves, because then my jars are used up too fast. Would you please hand me that big Pyrex? Thank you. And then we're just going to find our lines here and pull them away from the pit. These are semi-cling. Complete freestone are probably about another week out at least, and they're a bit more pricey as well. It's not that bad a deal. It comes loose pretty well. And so you've got quarters. Sometimes you'll have halves depending on how it cuts, and this is what your peaches are going to look like. This is how you're going to load your jars. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Start up at the stem area, grab a piece, and let it roll for peeling. Okay? So I'm going to turn this over to Matt now, and you're going to watch him load a jar, and I will give instruction as he does it for you. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to continue peeling, and Matt is going to demonstrate how we get the next step done. He's going to fill the jars with all the peach sections. It's better than doing one peach at a time and then filling a jar. I like to get it all in a Pyrex and fill as we go. And I usually don't have any help. I'm usually doing this myself, so it's nice to have somebody else doing one of the steps. And I've never filmed it either. So I want everybody to have the chance to can. So the next thing he's going to do, now I'm still peeling for him for that jar, but he's going to do 2 tablespoons of white sugar. He's going to add to that the rest of the peaches when he gets more. And he's going to do 1 tablespoon of fruit fresh. And see, we put all this in first before the water so that everything will marry and melt together. I do a hot canning bath, and I do a cold syrup. I don't prefer my peaches to be in a heavy syrup of any kind. I like the fresh water much better. I like my canning to have a nice thin syrup, and there's just enough sugar in there to take any tart off, and you want the fruit to shine, not a bag of sugar. So once you get this just about, I'd say he can fit maybe the rest of those little pieces in there, and from this point he's got everything else in there. These are the only articles you need: sugar, fruit fresh, the peaches, your jar. So at this point, he's gone through with the chopstick, and you can see they're almost to the neck. He's left enough space in there to be able to get the water in there. So Matt, I'll have you go over and fill just before the neck. You can have a whole pitcher of water on your workstation and refill that as you want. Okay, so you can see the water line is here, and if you go through, you'll see just a few bubbles. I don't know if you can catch that on camera, but there's a few bubbles. Not crazy, just making room. And you can make bigger sections or smaller sections. And the peach juice, don't ever waste it. Don't let it go down the drain. Throw it right in there. So at this point, your lid is clean. We're going to make sure we have a dry, clean paper towel. And you take wipe around the rim, make sure there is no fruit there, no sugar there. You don't want anything on the neck. Clean, dry lid goes on. Don't tighten it like you're putting it away. You just put it on, that's it. Because it's got to be able to contract and expand in the canner. Okay, so there's your first. So you turn it upside down a couple times. That distributes the water and the fruit fresh. And there's your first jar of peaches ready for the canner. So we're going to keep going. When we're ready to fill the canner with the jars, we'll show you what that looks like too. Be right back. So, okay, we're back and we have 7 quarts ready to go into the canner. And the water is got a low rumble at it. These are still a little on the warm side from the peaches, which is fine. I'm using really cold water, so you don't want that a fast rumbling boil when you put these in. So the basket that's in here is a wire basket, and it holds 7 quarts. 6 around the circle, 1 in the center. You don't want any of your bottles touching like this. You want a little bit of airspace between them so the boiling water can get through all the way around. Once you get these in, you'll see where your water level is. If it's getting too high, you can remove some with like a measuring cup or what have you. But in the end of it, you're going to want to see at least a full inch above the bottle top. The water has to be an inch over the top, and they have to process for 25 minutes. So when you get all these in there, it's going to lower the temperature of the water somewhat. So you want to wait till it's at a slow rumbling boil, and then you hit your timer and start counting 25 minutes, okay? So we're going to put these in. Water is very hot. Be very careful. And you'll see as you start putting bottles in, is the water coming up too high? You know, we're going to be covered here soon. That's a pop, and it's okay. Once they're all in place, I'll move them around a little bit. I don't think we're going to have to add any water, because I think we're already over. We are. So, simple, and I'm glad this happened so you can see what we're doing. Just start taking some out, and you can throw it right into your peaches that you're waiting to peel, because it's boiling water. These are the kind of things I do want you to see happen. It's not a mistake. It's just you don't know, level-wise. Let's give that a try. And so your peaches have all been turned over at least once. And they're only filled to the neck. There's room for 2 more jars, but we're up just a little too high still. At least we don't have to worry about getting the temperature back up by having to add water. That's a good thing. And 2 more bottles left. Now safely, when you buy your water bath canner, you can get a it's a bottle lifter. It looks like a oddly shaped pair of tongs. I don't use one. I'm kind of old school. But for safety reasons, if you're a new canner, I suggest you do. Okay, so I'm going to make sure all the bottles have moved away from each other, so they're not touching. If I can get anything through there, I'm good. And there's space between each one, even the middle. Now, that's how your canner needs to look. Make sure your handles are down. Put the lid on. Make sure it's securely on here. You don't want it halfway tipping. When that starts boiling, that's a lot of scalding hot water. So you make sure that it's good and sturdy where it is. And you get your burner on. And I turn it up a little on the high side. When you hear the boil, you'll know that you need to come over and turn it down to medium and set your timer. 25 minutes processing time. When the process is over, I'll come back and I'll show you how to remove and cool your jars. Be back in a bit. Okay, so we've gotten our jars all processed. These 7 have been processed and they are scalding hot. And you want them on cooling racks with a dish towel underneath to catch any water, what have you. And don't mess with the lids. Don't keep moving them around. No shaking them, nothing. You want them to start coming to room temperature, and you're going to start hearing pops. And right now it's like 10 minutes to 7 p.m. You may still hear pops at 10 o'clock tonight. Don't get nervous. They will adhere and suck down into the contracting, and the lid will tighten itself and seal once again after being processed. So don't be nervous if you hear pops all day. It's not a big deal. So once they're at room temperature, I would say, because it's 7 o'clock now, I would say like by 10, maybe 11 o'clock, if you're still up, you can take each one and tighten the lids a little bit, the rings I mean, and turn them over. I can't do it because they're scalding hot, but you pick it up, turn it over, let the bubbles all settle, stand it right back up. Leave them just like this, and they stay like that till morning. Or if you're, if you're starting in the early morning, I would say at least 8 hours you want them to stay in this position. After that, they go in a cool, dark spot, away from sunlight, ideally in a basement or in a pantry. Nowhere's near a heater or a register, anything like that. And they will last you, the experts say 2 years. I've gone 3 and they were just fine. If it's anything like our house, they're not going to last that long. Everybody's going to want a jar. The kids come over, they take a jar. Holiday time comes, you put them in a gift basket, and they go by pretty quick. They go away pretty fast. If you're doing peaches or pears, it doesn't matter. The procedure and the contents are the exact same. The only thing different you're doing is changing up your fruit. So peaches and pears are canned the exact same way. I hope you've enjoyed this canning demo, and I hope you'll try it. You won't be intimidated by canning. It's not that difficult. It's time consuming and you need a lot of space and a little organization, but on a really cold, chilly winter afternoon and you want some fresh peaches over some vanilla bean ice cream, or you want to make a peach cobbler, you can go right into your pantry cabinet and grab one of these beautiful jars, and you've got it right here at home. Now these jars are the blue jars. They're antique blue jars. So they look a little different as far as color, but the clear jars look like this when they're completed. So enjoy, and I thank Matt for being here, working with me to learn how to can. Go to the end of the video and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and by all means share. And you can go to the email familyeats5967@gmail.com for the full details, grocery list, supply list for canning either peaches or pears. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Family Eats video. Bye.